In today's video, we're going to be talking about Google Gems from obviously Gemini. I'll be explaining what they are, how they work, how to apply them to real use cases, and how to get the most out of these powerful tools. So without further ado, let's start explaining what this Gem Manager is. Now, this Gem Manager, first of all, you'll find it at gemini.google.com, and basically in this menu, you can access the Gems section just by clicking here. It looks like we have access to gems directly with Gemini by default at no extra cost. Well, the main purpose of gems is to save us time, because normally when we use a standard AI model, we always have to constantly give it instructions. Let's say we have a prompt we use frequently or a work role like a professional email writer that we'll be using regularly throughout the week. One way to save time instead of copying the prompt, pasting it, saving it somewhere and all that is to use Google Gems. Obviously, we'll only create a Google gem for those prompts or roles we know we'll use regularly. It doesn't make sense to create a gem every single time we want to use the tool. So anyway, these are Google Gems. We can click here to create one and start building our gem without any problem. As you can see, we have the name section where we can simply name the Google gem. For example, copywriter, email writer. All right, so here I have the prompt already, the instructions already done. We have the mail writer. It says, an expert assistant for writing, answering, and creating professional messages. Obviously, I'm just creating a basic professional writer here without much else, but we could expand this to negotiate different styles, focus the writer on content creation, or simply answer incoming questions for a support team, whatever you need. Each of you can customize it however you want. What I'm going to do is send this to Gemini. I'm going to have it rewrite the instructions. I think Gemini does really well with this kind of reasoning work, and it's rewritten them for me, okay? This is the prompt I'm going to show you. As always, you know I share the prompts in exchange for checking the description. I'm leaving you this gift, and in the description, you'll also find a private 8-minute audio just for you, plus another small secret bonus, so go take a look. Okay, first of all, as we can see, it's stating the purpose and objectives. It says transform brief notes into sendable emails, generate appropriate responses, maintain high executive and assistant standards with impeccable writing skills. And here we have the communicative style definition, the drafting process, the output format, and more. Important, let's say that we here, for example, we have a very distinctive style. Well, first of all, we take a PDF, for example, with 20 emails, maybe 30 emails, as many as you have. Or if you have a written book, that works too, doesn't matter. Or a research document, you upload it and say, I want you to write in this style. Or from someone whose writing style you like. You can ask Gemini to define the style for you, okay? Within the chat itself, and then we'd simply define the style or change it in the instructions section, and we can also add it here in knowledge, okay? Right now it doesn't have any default tools, create images, canvas, deep research, nothing. But what we could do is click add files, upload a file, and it would use that file as a reference. Obviously we'd explain that to it, right? Here at the end. Hey, I've uploaded a reference file so you know a bit about how I write. And now, theoretically, we've got the gem created. We can choose whether to use reasoning or not. So I tell it, create a message about gems and how they can optimize your workspaces. And there, as you can see, it lets us interact with the tool. I've set it to reasoning, but you can set it however you want. And there we get the draft. Dear blah, 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 I hope you're having a productive week. We started looking at ways to reduce time spent on repetitive tasks and such. Well, here we have it, okay? And now we can hit save without any issues and access this gem whenever we want to use it. And that's what these gems are for, right? Now, if I click the drop down or go to the gems section, you can see I have the mail writer right here, okay? So there you go. It's that simple. All right, now I'm going to show you 3 gems that you can use for studying. And obviously you can create your own. But I'm going to give you these ones with the prompts and everything. We're going to introduce a tutor that will basically help explain those topics that are a bit more complicated. I'm also going to show you how to take this tutor and specialize it if you're studying a specific subject, for example, marketing. So you can specialize the tutor in that area. Then we'll also have a gem that will create flashcards and quizzes, okay? So we can study the material we're practicing. And finally, a visual educator, okay? So it generates images or canvases that let us visually see what we're studying in case we're reading, say, a book and need some visual representation to understand what we're learning, okay? So let's go to Tutor Pro, all right? We'll click Edit here. Basically, Tutor Pro's description, a patient and analytical mentor that helps you master complex tasks from scratch through guided questions, personalized analogies, and it says it won't give you the answer, but will teach you how to think. Okay, as you can see, I've added guided learning here. And for example, let's say we want to learn about Google's Gemini gems. Here we could choose facts or reasoning, but let's go with reasoning. We'll hit send, okay? And there we're getting a little preview of how this gem is going to work. Now don't worry, I'll give you the instructions. As you can see, I haven't linked it to any knowledge base, nor have I selected the guided learning tool, and it says, it's a pleasure to meet you. Gemini gems are customized versions of AI that you can design to work as experts on specific topics or tasks. So we can build this knowledge together using analogies that are familiar to you. Could you share 2 or 3 of your hobbies or interests? Well, it uses your hobbies or interests to explain new concepts in a way and with themes you already understand, right? Something very, very interesting. So what are the instructions? The instructions are nothing more and nothing less than these. I'm sharing the instructions in the description. By the way, you have a completely free 8-minute private audio and also a little surprise gift, okay? I'm mentioning this because I think you'll find it really useful, okay? But anyway, you came here to study, so I won't distract you. All right, so here we have, as we're seeing, the prompt, right? So how could we take this prompt or this gem and adapt it for a specific tutor? Well, first of all, we could upload different files here as reference material for what we're discussing. If we're talking about a book, for example. Also, we can take this same message, send it to Gemini and say, hey, adapt this prompt to be a high school math teacher, okay? And this way we'd be optimizing that tutor for the student, right? Okay, let's move on to the next one, the next Gemini, the next gem, so we can also look at some of the usage examples we have. Obviously, the usage example we just saw is writing. We're going to be looking at the Canvas style. This time I think I'd rather open it directly from here and, okay, I'm going to ask it to make me a quiz about the Romans. Obviously, this is something very general, okay? I created the gem so we can upload a file, for example, from what we're studying in our notes and tell it, hey, create a quiz from these notes. If we obviously want it to be more complicated, we specify that. If we want it to be only ABC, we tell it or simply have no answer, okay? But there, as you can see, what it's going to start doing is creating a whole system of questions about the topic we're studying, okay? Plus it makes it in an app style format. And you'll say, but how is this possible? How can this be? Well, because this is the power of gems, okay? I mean, can you imagine studying like this? Honestly, I would have loved it. So here it says, well, according to Roman Foundation on Roman mythology, wow. What are the 2 twin brothers who were raised by a she-wolf? Wow. Oh, look, there it is. Romulus and Remus. There it is, okay? And there, as you can see, it marks the answers, right? As incorrect, incorrect. Plus, it explains why it's incorrect. I mean, it's incredible. And we also have the option to show a hint, okay? To keep studying so all these concepts stick with us. Honestly, it's a concept I love. And, well, they also have the option to make flashcards. Let's ask it to do it. I tell it, create flashcards for studying the Romans. Obviously, I'm not specifying anything here, not what era of the Romans or about. Here it asks us to connect Google Workspace. Well, I said, okay, but obviously if we were going to do something better, I'm just showing you a quick example. That's all, okay? But you have to try this yourselves because I really think it's super cool. If you'd like me to play around with the gems a bit more, just let me know. Hey, I need a gem about such and such. Well, or contact me, okay? There it is, asking me, of course, it's asking me about the file. And it just accessed my Google Drive. I'm seeing that it's talking to me here about my files. It just accessed my Google Drive, and I haven't found any data on the Romans, which is another thing. We can connect our Google Drive so we don't even have to move the documents. Okay, I told it to create the flashcards for me and not to wait for anything, okay? And there it made the flashcards for me. Well, it hasn't quite finished them properly, infographic, let's see. But anyway, we have the question and the answer. I mean, no, there's not much more. Who is traditionally accepted as the author of the Book of Romans? Paul the Apostle. Also, I want to point out that I'm using Gemini Fast. I'm not even in reasoning or pro mode, and it's already doing all this for me. So just imagine, it's also created this for me. Context, structure, none of this works, but the author, recipients, the purpose. It's created this in HTML too, so we can study it, which I asked for separately, right? here when it gave me the flashcards, I clicked create infographic, but we could ask it to create study cards, which would be better, right? And there we have what we were looking for. Yes, sir. The author of the Book of Romans. Let's see. Can we flip them? There it is. We click and they flip. Okay, there it is. It also has this learning monitoring feature. Ah, okay, I see. To know if we already knew it or not, right? And to know if we got it wrong or not. So now we have it, right? What we were looking for. Well, this would also be a way to having it in text format also lets us do whatever we want with this information. If we want to make a quiz, an audio summary, here we have the options, a web page. Well, if we just want the flashcard, we specify that in the prompt, which, by the way, I haven't shown you the prompt, have I? The prompt is, let's go to edit, exportable flashcard and quiz, blah, blah. And the prompt is this one here. Sorry that I'm always so far away. Okay, this prompt is this one here, okay? Once again, another little gift for you. Remember, there's a gift in the description. Sorry to keep insisting, but people are snatching them up. This tool has limits, but you can still get a lot out of it. You can create mind maps, diagrams. Actually, this was made to create diagrams for me, okay? So yeah, that's it for this video. There's not much more to it. Hope you enjoyed it, and subscribe. Alright, today I'm going to show you how to create perfect gems with NOTEBOOKLM. And to do that, we're going to use NOTEBOOKLM to research the best methodologies for creating our own prompts, okay? Why do we want to create our own prompts? Because ultimately, to create a gem, we need to define a role for it, and that's done through a prompt. So the best way to quickly research a ton of information to generate a good prompt, look, obviously, if we already know how, we just generate it directly and we're done, okay? But hey, it's also nice to have a tool that generates the prompts for us, right? No, I'm not saying no. So what we'll do is head over here to NOTEBOOKLM, click on Investigate, Deep Research, and we're going to paste this prompt right here, okay? It says, Objective, research Google's official docs for system instructions and gems. Research points, people, tasks, context, formats. Specifically identify the chain of thought. Okay, so we'll send this over, all right? I've seen other people do this. I got this idea from another user who basically would send it to Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini all at once, okay? Ask all three at the same time. What happens? Well, if we ask all three at once, it won't go as deep into each one individually. Instead, it'll just give us a little bit from each one. Plus, we can just keep this prompt as is and we're done, okay? If we don't want to keep adding more information, because ultimately we feel that what's already there about generating prompts in Gemini is more than enough, and we don't think the other two models like ChatGPT or Claude will add anything, well, we can move forward. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and include the ChatGPT information, okay? And Claude's too, which I'll show you the prompts for later. All right, and there we have no less than 43 sources. We're going to import them and move right on to the next prompt, okay? Here, obviously, we could also, if we wanted to dive deeper into prompt generation within Gemini, right? Well, if we only want Gemini and don't care about Claude or ChatGPT, okay? We could go deeper and create another prompt, but I think it's good to have perspective on the information available online about all the different models, especially these important ones. The prompt for ChatGPT is going to be this one, okay? Focus on structuring information, literacy, prompting strategies, and so on, okay? All focused on ChatGPT, custom instructions and such. Let's send it. Here we see, for example, that I'm asking about token efficiency. I'm going to delete this and, well, we'll send it over there, okay? And here we have some very interesting things. For example, what are the best practices for writing instructions for a Gemini model? Here, they even give us some examples of prompts. This is all very, very valuable and interesting information that's going to help us, okay? Very good, so there we have 33 more sources, and let's move on to the last prompt, which is for Claude. Objective: conduct thorough research on Anthropic's documentation for system prompts and more. Important if you like GIFs, I just gave you 3 prompts and a perfect way to generate gems. In the description, you'll find an 8-minute private audio just for you, plus a little surprise GIF that I'm sure you'll get a lot out of. I'm also going to show you how to optimize and use artificial intelligence much more effectively. And now let's send that last prompt to deep research. As we can see, obviously more sources isn't better, right? It would be interesting to read the sources and filter a bit, but that's why we're asking for official sources so we don't have to filter ourselves, because official sources should already have filtered information. But I'm sure it can be improved, obviously. I'm sure if we have a book on generating prompts or a library of 400 well-crafted prompts we can use as examples, we can use that too, okay? As well as more premium content. All of this could help us improve our prompt creator or our gem creator, okay? All right. And there we have another 41 sources. I want to briefly explain that I can have up to 300 sources, okay? Look, there it is. There it is. We have tons of Reddit posts and comments, which is really, that's honestly the interesting part. Because at the end of the day, most pages explain pretty much the same things. And where you actually find quality and specific information is in Reddit posts. I highly recommend it. If you ever run into a very specific error, go to Reddit. So now we have all our sources, okay? Let's let some of them finish loading. These ones showing up in red here, just delete all the sources with errors and that's it. Let me see if I can reload. Still loading well. I think the medium ones are going to give me errors across the board. So now what we're going to do is give Notebook context about what we're trying to generate, okay? All right, I'm going to ask for a prompt that I couldn't get with Gemini before, so I tell it, I'm using Gemini Gems, and I'd like to create a Gemini gem that gives me an application for the canvas based on whatever term I give it. For example, if I say solar system, I want it to create a 3D representation of the solar system. I'll add with explanations, or for example, plant growth the same, okay? Well, a bit complicated like that, but the AI gets it. I tell it, give me the title, the description, and the prompt. I'm going to send it. We have 111 sources. I don't know how long this will take. It'll probably take quite a while to respond because when I write with about 1,500 pages of book sources, it already takes me like 20-30 seconds. I don't want to imagine now. Oh, looks like it didn't take long, okay? Now let's grab the gem. We'll click New Gem. We'll name it Interactive 3D Concept Builder. Perfect. So far you've got it. Description, sorry. The description is, transform any concept into a fully functional tool. Interactive 3D web application. Okay, and now we have the whole prompt here. Wow, the prompt is, it's intense. Person and task, context, format, and standard. Be concise. Obviously the structure is going to be fine, right? Because we just built it with tons of examples and everything. It says, you are a creative master and tech expert in WebGL 3.j as developer. You specialize in building 3D environments, web apps like the solar system or plant growth. Okay. Task. When the user provides a term or concept, your goal is to generate a 3D interaction and app. What should we test it with? Okay, we said solar system and plants. I'm going to tell it river generation. All right. We also need to add the canvas tool, okay? We're going to hit save and then put river generation there. Theoretically, just by sending this, it should generate it. It might ask us some questions. Obviously now, regardless of the prompt, it would be much more interesting to say river generation and specify each of the processes, right? For example, it snows in the mountains, slowly melts, and rivers form. The rivers join together until they flow into the sea, then the sea evaporates, and the cycle repeats. Okay, a complete cycle. It would be cool to give it the explanation, but anyway, let's see how it does this. It's generating everything here. Well, the prompt I sent, I gave it, but it's this one here, okay? Wait, it's this one here in case you want to try it to see I'm not lying, okay? There you have it. I'm seeing it's creating a pretty hefty application. Almost 500 lines of code. Obviously, I want you to understand that what I've asked for is super complex, eh? And in fact, it would make much more sense. Wow, well, almost, huh? I mean, it's missing the mountains and the sea and all that, but you can see, wow, well, that's where it flows into, right? Look, obviously, this isn't anything amazing. Look, the headwaters, it says, rivers start in the mountains and in the highlands. The glaciers melt and all that. Now, as far as the visual representation goes, it's clearly done what it could, okay? Here we'd have to keep iterating and all that and take advantage of the fact that we're playing with the interactive 3D concept builder, but it's done pretty well for the little info we gave it, huh? I mean, I asked it to create a river for me. I didn't tell it to make the environment or bio anything else. I told it to create the metamorphosis with all the visual representations and processes of a butterfly. And let's see what it generated. State. Okay, stage 1, the egg. Well, there it shows us the egg. Let's see, that's good. You have to imagine it a bit, right? Stage 2, the larva, then the pupa, then the pupa, and then the adult. Okay, I told it to improve the visuals. I wrote just one message, improve the aesthetics and layout, and it's improved it quite a bit, honestly. We have the egg, we have now, let's see if it lets me select the second stage. Well, we can rotate the egg, you spin it around and click objects, drag toward The larva, right? The pupa and the butterfly, right? Or the imago. Well, this is something else, huh? And all this with just one prompt, right? So yeah, this is the potential. Now I could create any representation. Obviously, this has some pretty clear limitations, right? But if you focus it, look at other types of prompts and such, we're already seeing a bit of the potential of what we can generate. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it and subscribe.